The La Brea tar pits are some of the most famous fossil deposits in the world, representing the last 50,000 years of the last ice age. Yet they're located right in the middle of metropolitan Los Angeles. Over 3 million fossils have been recovered, including 59 species of mammals and 139 species of birds, both living and extinct, as well as reptiles, amphibians, fish, and numerous plant remains. A huge amount of research has been conducted here over the past century, and much of what we know about late Ice Age mammals and birds comes largely from La Brea. Over 100 separate excavation pits have been found on the property, although only a few have yielded lots of bones. In the past, the tar pits were part of a Spanish land grant, Rancho La Brea, where the asphalt was frequently mined to lubricate axles on wooden carts, or later to form seals for tar roofs. La Brea is the Spanish word for tar or asphalt, so the La Brea tar pits is redundant. Later, it became part of the huge 6th Street oil field, which runs along the Newport-Inglewood Fault all the way from Long Beach and through Beverly Hills. It is still an active oil field today with many wells in the rich parts of town. Early landowners thought the tar-covered bones were those from cattle that had gotten lost, or pronghorns, but in 1901, oil geologist W. W. Orcutt recognized that they were the bones of Ice Age mammals like saber-toothed cats. The first collections were made by the University of California at Berkeley from 1905 to 1912. Those fossils are still up at Berkeley, many of them stored in the famous campanile or bell tower for lack of any other place to store them on campus. Many other groups, such as local high schools and colleges and the Southern California Academy of Sciences, also had their own excavations. So in 1913, the landowner, G. Allen Hancock, gave exclusive rights to the excavations to the fledgling Los Angeles County Museum. Eventually, Hancock deeded all the land to the County of Los Angeles, where it now is part of Hancock Park. The Natural History Museum conducted extensive excavations between 1913 and 1915, and those fossils were stored at the downtown museum building, and there was nothing to see at the park itself except a small bone deposit and what is now called the observation pit on the west side of the park, which has a spiral ramp surrounding a mass of bones still left in the asphalt the way they were discovered. The only other things on the site were life-size sculptures of giant short-faced bear and the largest ground sloths, so there was almost nothing to see at the actual site of the discovery. In 1969, they reopened an old, undeveloped deposit, Pit 91. The original excavations had been hasty and slapdash, so this time they began a careful, detailed excavation on a meter grid scale, recording the exact position of every bone as was discovered, and saving all the wash matrix from around the bones, so that volunteers could go through the fine gravel left over from the washing and screening and pick out all the tiny rodent bones, bird bones, beetle parts, seeds, and other microfossils that were recovered. As a 15-year-old high school student, I volunteered there for the entire summer of 1970, my first ever experience in paleontology, even though I had to spend hours on LA buses getting there from home since I didn't even drive yet. In 2006, the LA County Art Museum was excavating for a new parking structure a few blocks west from Hancock Park when they hit another bone deposit. Because of the press of time and money, my friend and colleague Robin Turner and her company removed the entire bone deposit using 23 huge tree boxes to enclose each block, which the construction company then lifted and transported to a fenced-in space just north of Pit 91. Called Project 23 for the 23 tree boxes, it has been going on for the past 20 years, with each tree box being slowly and carefully excavated in a way that would not have been possible with the construction deadlines. So how did so many bones end up here? The natural oil seeps have been oozing to the surface for thousands of years, forming natural pools of asphalt all over the park and surrounding area. Most of the time, they just form thin black seeps with no water on top of them unless it's very rainy. You can still see the methane gas bubbling up from oil deposits below the lake pit, which is not actually a bone deposit, but an old asphalt excavation site. Anywhere you walk in the park, there are spontaneous asphalt seeps that you have to watch out for as you step around them. The thin deposit of asphalt is sufficiently sticky to trap most animals that step in and sink too deep, even without water covering to lure thirsty animals nearby. It's not like it was a daily occurrence. It's estimated the area need only trap 1 or 2 animals in a decade to account for all the bones we have. Until 1977, all La Brea fossils were stored in the downtown Natural History Museum 7 miles away. Then in 1975, George C. Page, a millionaire developer and the founder of the Mission Pack Holiday Fruit Basket Company, donated most of the funding to build a special museum right on the site, which till recently was called the George C. Page Museum of La Brea Discoveries. Behind me Tar Pits Museum, home of over 3 million fossils found at this site. Page was instrumental in the design of the structure, which resembles a Mayan pyramid in shape, and the center is an atrium with a lush prehistoric garden open to the sky. Page scouted museums around the world for ideas for innovative exhibits. Like the ever-popular cylinders of different diameters, the visitors have to try to pull out the asphalt and see how sticky it might be on a leg of a different size. Another innovative feature is a lab space enclosed in glass, nicknamed the fishbowl, which allows visitors to see the volunteers cleaning specimens and sorting matrix like I did in 1970. Another unique display is the wall displaying 440 dire wolf skulls. The biggest secret of all is what is contained beneath the grassy slopes around the pyramid. They actually conceal all the storage, office space, and classrooms in the museum, and most are invisible to the public roaming the exhibits inside. Beneath that eastern grassy slope, for example, is a hidden storage area that's only visible from one tiny window in the northeast corner of the public exhibit space. If you're a qualified researcher with legitimate research projects in mind, there's an enormous range of 2 long aisles of drawers and cabinets which house over 2 million fossils, all neatly laid out in drawers, organized by species, and then by which bone it is, and then by which pit each bone comes from. This aisle, for example, the western of the 2 main aisles, is entirely predators, mostly saber-toothed cats and dire wolves. You can pull out just about any drawer and see hundreds and hundreds of bones in each one of these racks and cabinets. For small bony elements, there may be as many as 100 elements all laid out in a single drawer, all in nice, neat rows, and there each one is sorted by which bone it is, and then by which pit it comes from. Parallel to that previous aisle is a second aisle on the western half of this eastern part of the slope. It's entirely prey species, mostly camels on the right and ground sloths on the left. And then, as you move all the way down past the middle break point, you find many, many other prey species, mostly bison on the right and horses on the left, all the way to the very end. Finally, as you move past those aisles on the eastern slope of the building, you turn the corner and go into the south face of the building, where in the southeast corner you have this enormous long aisle full of mammoth and mastodon bones and ground sloth bones. At the very end, just behind the wall on the eastern side of the main entrance, is the entire skeleton of Zed the mammoth that is not on public display. Zed is the nickname for a mammoth skeleton that was the first find for Project 23. Finally, there is a corridor beneath the north slope of the building, with largely full of classrooms and displays and offices, as well as the Hildegard Howard Laboratory for Avian Paleontology, which hosts the largest collection of fossil birds in one place in the world. For most of the 20th century, Hildegard Howard was responsible for identifying and laying out thousands of individual bird fossils in row after row in cabinet after cabinet. From these millions of bones, we've learned a lot about Ranch La Brea. One of the surprising things is that it's a predator and scavenger death trap. All it takes was one prey animal stuck in the tar and slowly struggling as it dies to attract dozens and dozens of predators and scavengers to get an easy meal. That's why the collection is overwhelmingly composed of saber-toothed cats and dire wolves and a few other predators, with prey species relatively rare. The same is true of the birds. Almost all of them are predators or scavengers. Rancho La Brea offers other opportunities for research. Almost all the good pits have radiocarbon dates that allow us to tell how these fossils changed through time and how the climate in the region changed through time. At one point, around 20,000 years ago at the peak of the last ice age, Rancho La Brea was covered by ponderosa pines and heavy winter snows. Very different from the modern climate that you would see in Beverly Hills where the movie stars roam today. This is the La Brea Tar Pits, one of the best windows we've ever had to the last 50,000 years of life in late ice ages in Southern California.